By the time the shuttle touched down on the violet sand of Xylar Prime, Commander Eric Vale already felt the weight of a promise he never remembered making. He was the last surviving human in this quadrant, rescued after the collapse of the Terran expansion fleet. The Xylari didn't treat him as a refugee. They treated him as an honored guest, and worse, as a promise groom. The city of Azora rose from the sands like floating shards of glass. Crystal towers hovered in the air, casting shifting rainbows across the pathways. Beasts with luminous, dreamlike hides roamed through gardens filled with bioluminescent flowers. Everywhere Eric walked, Xylari eyes followed him, glowing with a shifting silver light. At the gates of the Grand Crystalline Hall, the escort turned to him and said calmly, "The bride approaches. You must kneel." Eric stared at him flatly. "I don't kneel." The crowd rippled with shock. Their skin markings shimmered in disbelief. Then she appeared, Soraya the Azori line. Her skin glowed with flowing indigo patterns, her golden eyes sharp and intelligent. She walked toward him with a grace that felt almost unreal. "You do not kneel," she said, her voice echoing lightly. "This is our first problem." "I didn't ask for any bride," Eric replied dryly. "And I'm not kneeling to strangers." Soraya didn't react with anger. She studied him, curious. "Refusing the binding ritual will mean exile." "So I'll be exiled," Eric shrugged. "Void exile," she clarified, her tone tightening. Eric paused. That was different, being thrown into the cosmic storms that tore ships apart. No one survived that. "Why am I even here?" he demanded. "Because you were the one who saved our nursery domes in the Korth Hive," Soraya said. "Because you made a promise." She activated a hologram. It showed a battered, wounded Eric after battle, speaking into his recorder. "If any of you survive this, protect your young. Protect your future. I'll stand with you if you ever need me." "I barely remember saying that," he whispered. "My council interpreted it as a vow to join our lineage," Soraya explained softly. "I argued against it, but the elders insisted. They believe you are meant to strengthen our bloodline. They believe you are our sign of unity." Eric rubbed his face. "So what happens if I refuse?" "They will kill you," she said plainly. "And if I accept?" "You will stand beside me, not as a forced mate, but as a symbol of unity. The ritual is symbolic, not physical, not binding in the way you fear, but it will save you and prevent war." Eric looked at her in silence. "Guess I don't have much choice." The binding ritual took place on a floating platform, suspended over swirling cosmic vapor. Thousands of Xylari gathered. Eric wore a mantle of glowing nanocrystal fibers. Soraya stood across from him, her eyes unreadable. The High Elder floated forward and commanded them to step closer, press their palms together, and share breath. Eric hesitated only a moment before placing his hands against Soraya's. Her skin was warm, glowing softly beneath his touch. She leaned forward until their foreheads met. Their breaths mingled gently. A wave of shimmering light passed through the crowd. The ritual was complete. Eric stepped back, relieved it was simple, but before he could speak, the sky darkened. The lanterns flickered. A horrible chittering scream echoed. A tear of darkness ripped itself open in the air. A Korth Hive breach. Soraya gasped. "Impossible! They cannot enter this world." "Looks like they followed me," Eric muttered. Dozens of insectoid creatures poured through the tear. Panic erupted. The ritual platform shook violently. Eric grabbed a fallen plasma spear and shouted, "Soraya, get to safety." She summoned a crystalline blade from thin air. "No, we fight together." There was no time to argue. Eric spun, impaling a drone to the chest. Another lunge at Soraya. Eric blocked its strike with his shoulder and slashed it apart. Their movement synced instinctively, almost unnervingly well. "You would risk your life for me?" she breathed. "Guess the ritual does something after all," he replied with a half-grin. Then the queen emerged, a monstrous creature with blade-like limbs and obsidian armor. "That thing wiped out my entire squad," Eric said bitterly. "Then let us in what began," Soraya whispered. They moved like one being. Eric slid low, slicing into its legs while Soraya leapt high, driving her crystal blade into the queen's skull. The queen screamed, thrashing wildly. Soraya lost her footing, and Eric caught her mid-fall. Their eyes met. Their heartbeats synced. The markings on Soraya's skin pulsed in perfect rhythm with his breathing. They weren't bound by ritual. They were bound by battle. "Finish it," Soraya commanded. Eric hurled the plasma spear straight into the creature's core. The queen collapsed, dissolving into ash. The tear sealed behind her. Silence fell over the city. The elders approached, shaking with awe. "You have fulfilled our prophecy. Unity between human and Xylery sealed the void breach." Soraya stepped forward and spoke loudly so all could hear. "The human did not need our laws or rituals. He chose to stand with us out of honor. And because I made a promise," Eric added quietly. The elders bowed to him. "You are now guardian of Azora." Eric groaned under his breath. "Great, another title." Soraya smiled for the first time, warm and sincere. "You'll get used to it." Later that night, under the soft glow of floating lanterns in the crystalline garden, Soraya stood beside him. "You are not obligated to stay with me," she said. "The ritual bound fate, not hearts." Eric looked at her profile, the calm strength in her eyes. "And what if I want to stay? Because I choose to." Soraya's markings glowed softly. "Then it will be the first choice freely made by either of us." He looked out over the floating city. Hours ago, it felt like a cage. Now it felt like a beginning. "In that case," he said, "let's start our story on our own terms." Soraya stepped beside him, not as a bride forced by ancient tradition, not as a symbol crafted by elders, as a partner, a warrior, a choice. And together they watched the stars of Xyler Prime shimmer above them, welcoming the future they would build with their own hands. Free, united, and finally chosen.